Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Getaway. Ethan Hawke, who is a former race car driver whose wife has been kidnapped, and he is told he has to drive around and do this evil voice's bidding who has kidnapped his wife, and if he does not follow the instructions exactly, his wife will be harmed or killed. And while he is doing the bidding of this mysterious voice in this European city, he is carjacked by Selena Gomez, whose actual car, this car he's driving around in, is, and has been rigged up with tons of cameras. So Ethan Hawke and Selena Gomez are going on this adventure together to try and save Ethan Hawke's wife while this evil voice is watching them through all these cameras that are planted throughout the car. Now, those cameras that are planted throughout this car are kind of the visual style of the film, where it's constantly cutting between all these cameras and then another camera that they have also, which seems kind of superfluous, but there's a lot of cameras and there's a lot of cutting, and it makes this film very jarring and hard to get into, and it makes many of the action sequences pretty incomprehensible. Not the most incomprehensible action cut job I've seen this year. That still goes to Die Hard 5. You can kind of tell what's going on, but none of the crashes can really be admired. They're such quick bang jobs that you barely notice what happened. In most action movies, you get to dwell on things and really admire, like see a funny car wreck or something like that. But in this film, it moves on so quickly you barely know what hit you. And that's kind of the problem with Getaway. I mean, I think when you look at a lot of car chase movies should be shot just like any other action movie, in that when you have a lot of cutting, it really separates you from the audience, and it's really hard to get into. But if you have like a long sequence and you don't cut so much, and you can see a lot of like in a regular action movie, like a lot of fight choreography, you can really get into it. And there was one shot towards the end of this film where you see the shot from the front of the car. It's almost like a car perspective shot out of like Friday the 13th, but instead of Jason, it's the car. And that part was the most thrilling part of this whole movie. And it was a pretty lame shot, I have to say, but the way it looked on the big screen actually got me really into it. And I probably would have preferred, to be honest, just that shot with like voiceover from Selena Gomez and Ethan Hawke going like, "Watch out, oh no," it's like, "Shut up, I'm trying to drive here." Like, that would have been better than the action sequences they really gave us. There's a sense of choreography to it, there's a sense of real danger to it. You never know what's going to come at you, especially because the movie got just really still for no reason. I think that also fed into that shot. This looked like it took a long time to edit. It just wasn't done with any sort of skill. It was just kind of a jumble of mishmash of crap. And that every action sequence is pretty much cut and shot the exact same way. It gets very boring. I mean, you look at any classic action film and they mix it up. You know, one action sequence is cut this way and shot this way, and another one is shot another way. And that's kind of something that the Bourne films really introduced into modern action films, and something I never liked, where you basically, I mean, Chris Nolan did a lot in The Dark Knight. He cuts every action sequence the exact same way, and Chris Nolan can get away with it. He's smart enough of a director to get away with it. But in Getaway, that's an even more extreme fashion of it, where you have all these cameras around the car and in the car, and it just, everything's cut the exact same way. So it gets really boring, and there's no difference between each action sequence, and there's no real like kind of thrillingness through this chase. I mean, I think a better version of kind of a chase movie would be a film that came out a year ago, Premium Rush, because you really feel like you're like in this constant motion, you're constantly going, the story's always moving forward, and it feels, in this, it's like as soon as you get kind of into it, it's over, and then he like waits around somewhere and it like fades to something, and you don't get really the sense of a night. It like feels like a lot of different vignettes. The action sequences, a few of them towards the end get a little more inspired. I guess I kind of maybe want more of a Vanishing Point vibe, more of a chase movie vibe, some B thrill ride, and I think that's kind of at best what a movie like Getaway could plausibly be. But this movie is just a bad movie. That's essentially, I guess, what B movie stands for, is bad movie, and this is certainly a bad movie. It's not very good. The plot's pretty stupid. How the film decides to deal with things. I think Selena Gomez's character is poorly introduced, and then like when she slowly starts revealing things, it does feel like it's coming out of nowhere. But how else were they supposed to do that? I don't know how you would necessarily fix it, but it just feels very like rushed and not very well thought out. She has very little chemistry with Ethan Hawke. They seem a very mismatched pair to be in a movie together. Ethan Hawke really doesn't do his usual B-movie best. I think he was a lot better in something like The Purge. I don't know why he was chosen to be a driver. He doesn't seem to me to be somebody who really likes cars. I think this film really has all the problems with most action movies, just to a very big extreme. What should I expect from this movie? I mean, I always knew this was going to be a crap action movie. I didn't expect this movie to be a great piece of cinema. I don't think it's as bad as like it has like a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes or something, and like people are really trashing it. I mean, I think there's way worse films this year. I don't think it's the worst. I can think of a lot more films that I was a lot more bored by, and like my mind was numb by how awful they were, and this film didn't do that. I recognize this as a very bad movie. I don't think it's a good movie whatsoever, but I don't think it's as extremely bad as everyone's making it out to be. I guess I can't really defend it in any sort of way. It was just like, okay, it's a shitty car chase movie. It's not Lone Ranger bad. The way this film was cut and shot doesn't really work, and like the cameras were like some of the worst quality cameras I've seen in a mainstream release. I mean, I don't understand, like, couldn't they have gone to Best Buy and gotten better cameras? I mean, they were just like really shitty cameras. He's working for this crime boss who's supposed to be wealthy, and he couldn't get like HD cameras or something. That would have looked kind of cool, but it like doesn't even have that. It like fails on so many of the things that it could possibly succeed in. Even if that altogether would have been a minor success, I would have appreciated that. If it had succeeded, I think it would have been a little modest kind of success. And in a way, I think it's like a modest little failure. Well, it's probably more than a modest failure. It was just an outright failure. Getaway, that's a real reason to get away from the theater. No, but seriously, it's not a good movie. So if you have seen Getaway and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.